All right, welcome everyone to the Argo Flux Dev meeting. Today is the 4th of February. Do we have anyone here who's entirely new who wants to quickly introduce themselves and maybe say what their interest in Argo Flux is?
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I don't think I've joined this meeting before, but I'm Cornelia Davis. I've just recently joined Weaveworks as CTO.
Cool. Brilliant.
My name is Kyle Gothenauer. I work at SecureWorks. Keith, who's also in here, is my coworker. He just actually sent us this message. We're starting to go down the Flux route for deploying applications across our multiple Kubernetes environments.
Awesome. Welcome.
Super.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Let me quickly check if we have actions from last time. I think all the actions we have were from the meeting even before that. Or Fons and Jay, you were looking at adding some E2E tests. Is that still work in progress and you're good there, or?
I have unfortunately not had much of a chance to look into that, and unfortunately not had much of a chance to work on the Argo CD Good First Issues list, which Alex graciously sent to me a couple weeks ago. So I'm unfortunately a bit of an obstacle for progress this week. I apologize. So.
Okay, Fons, anything on your end, like anything we need to do as a group, E2E tests, or do you have an update there?
The end-to-end tests are
Yes.
even more complete. I've been adding more and more tests in the past few weeks. So now we have, I think, around 20 end-to-end tests.
Mm-hmm.
And it covers all the functionality of Flux, I think, or almost all the functionality of Flux. It still doesn't cover like non-happy path cases for the most part. But in general, yeah, it's already capturing errors we make when changing the code. So it's working well. They're not flaky anymore. There used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty satisfied with them.
Cool. So you don't need any help there, just some non-happy path tests if people have them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay. The next item was Jay and Alex to look at adding a make file and build and test instructions. I think this was for the GitOps engine.
It's kind of the last step of GitOps engine, code changes, and I'm getting closer to the step finally. So I just added to the agenda document the link to pull request, and we intentionally kind of not merging the pull request until the next Argo release, which should happen by end of this week. We just want to get out everything we got in Argo CD so far, and then merge the change and break the world. And this, we're going to use it. So basically Argo CD is going to get just a folder named engine, which is supposed to be moved into GitOps engine repo. And I hope it will happen, like as soon as possible. So right now, Jesse, my peer, he's reviewing the pull request, but it has pretty much what we expected it to have. And some functionality which has logic related to reconciling resources and syncing, and depends on how much time it will take for review. I want to also include functionality which Fons requested. So the syncing in Argo has a couple additional features, which is sync waves and pre-sync, post-sync hooks, but these hooks are controlled by annotations. And I don't think we want to have, we don't want to ask Flux users to add Argo CD annotations. Basically, we want to have ability to have Flux specific annotations. So we just need to add additional engine setting to tell to the engine that, hey, you should expect, flux.io/presync hook annotation instead of Argo Push.io presync hook annotation. So, yeah, and
how do you suggest that we approach code review on this patch? I mean, it is
I already
5,500 lines of code change.
So what I was trying to make it easier. Basically, I intentionally split changes into
the 6
meaningful
commits.
and non-meaningful. Yes, and I would review commits one by one. And let's say first commit, which is the biggest one, it's kind of doesn't make sense to review it because all I did, I was using just
moving code,
and it mostly consists of change import head to something else, and I had to do it because of we just had some utility libraries, for example, take first string which is not empty, things like that, and that was done. And second set of commits are meaningful and can be reviewed separately. So
that's the ones from yesterday, or the ones, or the move sync functionality. No,
it's a second and third. So basically we have caching and syncing, and it was all Argo related. So I had to go through, let's say, syncing and get rid of using of Argo CD application data structure, and just get rid of it and kind of have, instead of that, have neutral set of settings for the syncing.
Right.
Yes, and there is still one bit which is Argo CD specific. These annotations, and Argo CD specific part is just the prefix of an annotation, and it should be fairly easy to make the prefix customizable, and then we can see between Argo.io and Flux.
You said Jesse's reviewing this PR in the next couple of days?
I hope so. Yeah, I already got a bunch of several comments from another Argo CD developer. He's not in our group; he's external contributor. So he gave several suggestions. I'm going to apply them, and but I'm kind of pretty happy with it. The Argo CD code got cleaner a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, that awesome. All right, I will do my best to get through at least. I mean, maybe not the full PR, but at least so I understand the major pieces, the major commits in there that aren't just moving code around.
And I also I realized that, so before we were talking mostly about performance improvements in Flux, and during these meetings we spoke to a few users and everyone said, I don't really care about performance. I mean, it's good to have improvement, but it's never been an issue. And I feel like the focus is really on this syncing functionality. And I've seen several people on the internet, several comments, then people were saying, oh, it's nice to have pre-sync, post-sync hooks and sync waves. And I feel like because we're adding that functionality, we're also we will need to document it in Flux and make sure.
For sure.
So a big piece of work to just make, to explain that it's there and somehow teach people to use it. And so.
Okay. What would be the best way to help you? Obviously, I know Jesse's already doing the PR review on this, but what would be most useful for you? Maybe testing it out, like pulling it down locally and testing it out, or as you said, some documentation things. What would be most useful for the folks on the call today to help you out in pushing forward this PR? Because this is obviously the most important PR, right, so far for Argo CD.
Yes, that's. We were going to discuss it with forms, but we can discuss it now. Basically, he proposed that instead of me doing the Flux changes again, he can just take what I have and make these changes, and he can do it better than me, obviously. That's one way to help.
Specifically about Flux, but no, I meant sort of like how can we best help you out with regards to this particular PR, the 3066 GitOps engine feature branch?
I feel like, so I did want to, even before merging the PR, I wanted to take the Flux again and try to use it. So as during the POC, I took these changes and tried to use it in Flux to make sure it's like what I wanted. And I have much more confidence right now because I did it before, so plan must be good, it should be working. So
okay.
I feel like we just need to just get it merged because like, JT is the best person. I mean, he knows it, like he might,
of course, yeah,
quicker find bugs which I introduced in the PR. I mean, we have a lot of EDU tests; they all passed. So there was a couple bugs. So I have high level of confidence. I think we just need to
just push on through.
Yeah, and I already mentioned in the beginning. So we have to since last release, it's been like since last release of Argo CD, we've got like bunch of bug fixes, and Argo CD community wants these fixes. So we want to get out next release as soon as possible, basically by end of this week. And that's why, I mean, intentionally we don't want to merge it till Friday.
Okay.
And I hope that's maybe enough of a time for review. And then
for review of this particular PR or review of the Argo 1.5 release?
No, Argo 1.5 release should be easy because it's mostly just stability bug fixes. So we need to take the master of Argo CD and move it into 1.4 branch, basically cherry pick all the changes. And that will be good enough for, to push 1.5. It's not going to be 1.5. It's going to be 1.4.3 because it's just a patch release with.
Okay.
Yes,
but that is you're targeting this week for 1.4.3.
Right, and on the end of this week, we just want to give a chance to maybe put even more fixes before the end of this week, because once we merge these changes, there will be bugs for sure, and we just don't want to delay, all the existing bug fixes to be released for such a long time. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, and about help, it's not really GitOps engine help, but yeah, what was holding us so far is, at least in Argo CD, we keep getting bug reports and minor feature requests, and helping this type of things. It just leaves us more time to focus on GitOps engine. That's
okay. Yeah, I hear you, and I apologize for not being able to jump in there. That's my bad.
No. That's basically, it's not really. It's kind of not an answer. How can you help with GitOps engine? Because answer is strange. Like help with Argo CD.
Yeah, I understand. Help out any way possible which would be which would assist you with having more time for the GitOps engine PR and stuff.
Yeah, and then I also, last time we spoke about, there are two other kind of possible activities for GitOps engine, which is Docker registry monitoring and Git updates. So what I did, I just slacked it in the Slack channel, but I feel like it just needs more. I mean, just one Slack message is not enough to get attention of people. Someone have to follow up. That's another possibility. So
are you talking about for Argo for the GitOps engine, like adding that functionality, or
collect requirements,
or testing of? Oh, just gathering requirements on that. Okay.
Just, yeah, and I'm a really wrong person to do that kind of a job. I cannot. Yeah, I don't know how to kind of gather people and try to, make them talk.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can add that as a action item. I'll go ahead and just sort of like advertise the need to discuss that particular feature, and then next in 2 weeks we can have it as a topic for the developer meeting.
Yeah, Just want to repeat, I think I tried to say it last time, and basically it's for everyone in that meeting. So if you have any input about how do you update your Git repo automatically, and how do you detect that there was a new image pushed, just kind of share it with us. Because it feels like a problem for everyone, and everyone just script it and complain that it's not perfect. But we need to know like specific problems.
Okay, I can certainly do that along with Daniel. And do we have a GitHub issue on Argo CD for that particular? I'm sure we did, because it's not like it's been just a new feature request, right? Because this is functionality that Flux CD has had for a while, right? Yeah. I'm positive there's been a GitHub issue about it on Argo CD.
I'm 100% sure. I can send it to you.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or just link it into the action here.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, good. I will
cool.
update.
We have a comment from Rio in the chat window, because they can't use voice right now. We tend to just trigger a pipeline in our manifest repo. So I think that was about the question earlier.
Feels like it's the most popular option.
As far as versus doing it in an automated fashion, is that I'm assuming what you're comparing to?
I feel like it's automated, right? But it's just you have to automate it. Like everyone have to automate it instead of just push like toggle some like setting. Everyone have to figure out how to update. And
I see what you're saying. So instead of Argo CD or Flux CD doing it, you just have a job that's running in your pipeline that notifies when there's changes to the images that are associated in any of the manifests in the config repo. Gotcha. All right, I added the link to the Argo CD Good First Issues. If folks want to pop that open, I had some questions for you, Alex. So obviously there's 16 here, or at least there are as of, yes, there's 16. How would we go about prioritizing these is my question. Which would we work on? Bugs, I'm assuming? Versus enhancements, or?
In this case, bugs has higher priority. At the same time, I think they're harder to fix because
I'm sorry?
But the bugs usually, from that list, more difficult to do than features because you would have to first figure out what is broken, and feature is usually kind of more straightforward, and more kind of it's more interesting to work on these features instead of bugs. Yeah, so I feel like bugs has higher priority.
Okay. Do you do any sort of triaging activities on a regular basis? Triaging as far as going through the list of issues, identifying bugs, reproducing the bugs, or working with the original poster to define them, etc.
I do it, and actually there is one more member, Jan. He's not from Intuit actually, but he's a user of Argo CD and he does it a lot. So, but we kind of really liking because, I can see that we get plus 20 bucks every week, and we close maybe like 5 or 6. So it's been going on, and we start getting a lot of bugs which are, just kind of help me. I try to deploy it and something broke. And then it's nice to redirect these tickets into just Slack because it's an environmental issue. And I saw that you were helping a lot on Slack channel. So maybe I should just do it and just close these issues and kind of say, okay, sorry, it looks like it's just, you need to talk to someone, and that's more likely someone.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm getting at. I want I want to take as much of the load off of you personally as possible. So, I mean, Daniel, myself, and others can do the work of, you know, getting in back in touch with people that are submitting bugs and either directing them to Slack or another issue that has an explanation of a workaround or fix, or reproducing the bug if it is a real bug, and sort of allow you to focus, you know, on the GitOps engine work. But my question was, how do you look at a list like this and prioritize what to work on first?
I mean, the list which I gave it to you already, the good first issue, I would, I mean, because it's not fixed. Basically, it's easy wins, but none of them are kind of critical.
Right. So, I mean, even if I take out the good first issue and I just click on issues, right, like open issues, there's 239 of them. There's a bug tag, but there's nothing that indicates to me sort of like what the priority is for that particular bug. And it would be useful to be able to narrow down, you know what I mean? Like, if there's a particular area, like, for instance, in the CNI plugin, the AWS VPC CNI plugin, we have bug, but we also have priority P0, priority P1, or whatever, just to help us generally categorize the most important things from stuff that can wait a little bit. Would you be open to doing something like that, to labeling, you know, basically P0, P1, so we can focus efforts against the really top priority stuff?
There is this kind of, we don't use, you know, these priorities directly, but what I found we are doing is we usually have kind of a milestone. Right. A milestone is kind of tied to just a release.
A date, yeah, a date or a release.
1.5 has 1.5 milestone, and usually if we see that, oh, there is a bug which kind of, you know, bothers so many users and we really want to fix it, we just assign it to a milestone. And then milestone, I mean, the tickets in milestone has priorities, and usually we kind of just sort them appropriately. So I would use, I mean, does it work? Basically, I can send another link which shows all the milestone for all the tickets for current milestone. And these tickets basically prioritized as, you know, good to be fixed as soon as possible. But admittedly, it's like, we tend to fix like 60% and then just carry over these tickets to the next milestone, and they go with a higher priority. And but that's it's not as granular as P1, P2, but it's like, you really want to fix now versus.
Okay.
So good first issues in the current milestone are really good kind of candidates, because it's someone is waiting for them right now and should be easy to fix.
Okay. Daniel, maybe you and I can do a Slack triaging session, maybe sometime in the next week or so, just to start removing the workload of from Alex as much as we can. Allow Alex to focus on the GitOps engine work. Cornelia or Fonz or Alex maybe want to chat a little bit about our plans around roadmap and trying to get that sort of in a pretty decent shape over the next couple of weeks before KubeCon.
Sure. So all of the work that you all are doing is fantastic, and the GitOps engine is a really wonderful first step. But really, to bring these technologies together and the communities together, we need to be looking a little bit beyond that. And in fact, for all of you who are joining, you know, people like Kyle who might be joining, it sounds like you might be joining relatively new to this party. Sounds like you're just getting started with Flux. Understanding what we're doing, what the North Star is, and why it's better that these things are together and how they're going to come together and what the user interfaces look like and so on. So beyond things like the basic syncing, how are you going to be able to interact with this project moving forward? That's what we aim to do in the coming weeks in time for KubeCon, so that we have a still no promises on dates, but a pretty concrete roadmap to map out that vision, so that we can start to get feedback on it right around the KubeCon EU time period.
And I'm sure we'll put some call outs to get feedback as well in the next few weeks. So, but I think it's important that folks know that we're working towards a solid roadmap with some details that we can announce and get behind at KubeCon.
Yep. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Cornelia. So Keith and Kyle and Rio, any other questions or topics you wanted to bring up, or Roberto?
Nat, at least for me, just kind of wanted to join and just kind of be a fly on the wall and listen in and see what was going on.
Cool, awesome, welcome.
Yeah, same. I did kind of want to maybe express like our use case for Flux and just GitOps engine in general.
Please do.
Yeah, to provide some feedback there. So obviously we're looking to be able to kind of create different Kubernetes clusters or just environments very quickly. And the GitOps model seems to be very nice for doing that. You know, traditional CD, going in there into whatever your solution is and then adding new releases and manually doing a lot of that can be quite daunting. Just increased overhead, right? But being able to create a Kubernetes cluster, throw Flux in it, and have it just pull everything in is really nice. Where we're looking to really benefit from this is where we have specific, let's say, release channels. So we have a bunch of clusters in pilot, but we want to configure some of the things a little differently. I have been able to work around that by using config maps with Helm releases and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of our use case there. You know, if we want to isolate a customer in a different Kubernetes cluster with all our backend apps, we should be able to create that in a pilot account and pilot environment, but also be able to configure those apps totally differently and connect to its own resources.
Now, do you guys use the Flux Helm operator?
We are. So we've been doing extensive POCs with that, and we've been very successful using the Helm releases with the Helm operator, and then creating essentially different config maps per cluster, but then pointing the Helm release to the same config map, but that config map would have different values.
Right, the same config map name.
Exactly. Yep.
Gotcha.
And then some of the things that weren't necessarily clear at first were things around configuring Flux with like the Git labels. I did find in one of the facts there, essentially you have to modify that so they're not all using like Flux sync. So maybe just a little clarity around that, or a little clarity around how you could potentially set up Flux or some type of GitOps engine where there aren't too many conflicts.
I'm not sure I'm fully following that. Maybe you can elaborate a bit on that, and I'll try and take some notes on the.
I'm following.
Oh well, Hide, maybe maybe you could take the notes then if you're following.
No, what he's saying is basically already known, but we are just with too little people to have a quality documentation. If you run into something, please join our Slack, and we will probably have an answer for you within a day. Refactoring our documentation is still on our to-do list.
Awesome.
So, okay, so just for my benefit, since I clearly do not understand the source of the issue here. Is it you're saying that there's a lack of documentation on the Kubernetes, like the pod labels, or?
I think
No.
there's a lack of documentation on more advanced topics.
Yeah,
On more what? What was that?
More advanced topics.
Oh, okay.
correct. Yeah. So we essentially were testing with two quote unquote pilot clusters. And when you configure Flux in both of those clusters, by default, they are configured to look at the git tag of Flux sync. But there is a little blurb in there, like in one of the FAQs, that says like, if you're using it in that fashion, make sure to modify the git labels. So you would say like git sync pilot 1, git sync pilot 2. So that way each instance of Flux is looking at its respective git label or git tag, sorry. But yeah,
Okay,
so
gotcha.
it wasn't a huge issue, but yeah, I had to do some digging, and so just making some of that stuff a little more clear for advanced use cases. And, yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I want to say I appreciate all the work. This has actually been making our lives significantly easier as we're starting to figure some of this out.
Now, Keith, have you tried Argo CD?
I personally have not, but at KubeCon North America a few months ago, I did sit in on the Argo, I believe it was like the walkthrough that Intuit did. And it looked very nice. I like kind of the UI. Everyone likes a pretty UI. But I have not personally actually sat down and done a POC on it.
Okay. Is that something that you guys would look into or try out, or about the Argo Flux GitOps engine based Argo CD branch that Alex has been working on? Is that something that you might be interested in testing out and giving some feedback about its user experience and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't see why not. You know, we were definitely really interested going with this GitOps engine and the future of this entire project. So that's kind of why we were looking at least at Flux to begin with. And some of our team is a little more familiar with it as well. But yeah, from the Argo side, we would definitely be interested in looking at some of that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be great. Cool. Well, Roberto just said that, you know, he was just checking out the the community and saying hi, and that he's learning about GitOps and Argo CD and Flux CD and all that kind of stuff. So welcome, Roberto. Unless anybody has any other questions or topics, I think we can wrap up.
Yeah, there was a question from Roberto. He asked, he asked if where to start if he wants to contribute to Argo CD, and I just sent a link to a documentation. So we have a kind of contributing guidelines, and it describes what should be installed.
Great.
And yeah, maybe it's, I mean, whoever, if anyone else is interested in contributing, we recently configured kind of public dev instance of Argo CD. So every commit to master goes into that public dev instance. So if you make changes, and once your PR get merged, you will see a CI job, and then from that CI job, you'll get a link to cd.apps.argoproj.io.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of public dev instance of Argo CD. Yeah, so. And right now it's read-only for like obvious reasons, and we're going to figure out like how to configure a limited account, which has permissions to do something. Most likely, we can let people just sync changes from selected Git repos, because we have control on these repos. It's safe to let everyone just click sync button, but at least it gives them opportunity to test some functionality.
Yeah, give people a sandbox to play in.
Yeah.
Cool.
I did have kind of like a parking lot item that I don't know if we want to do that. It was more of a question on how at least from Flux's side, how it handles, let's say, conflicts. Like if we had two instances kind of sharing a specific directory in a manifest repository, like how does it kind of block each other? Like what is the logic or steps in there? You know, in some of the logs you can see for the one Flux instance, you know, it tries to commit, say, an image update, but then Git specifically, you know, will block it and reject it because it doesn't have one that the other one has already updated, right? Or the changes. Is there kind of like a high level logic, like step case? Does anyone know that? Or am I trying to be a little too analytical?
So I may be wrong because I haven't worked on the synchronization part for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But the steps it normally would take is it would make the change based on the current state of the working clone. Then it makes a commit and then it tries to push the commit. If the commit or pushing the commit fails, it will be rescheduled to be reattempted basically.
Mm-hmm.
And if it then sees that the change has already been made, it will just ignore the fact that it has to make a change. So it's basically the state protection is based on Git.
Okay. I do want to point out, and maybe this is a bug to file, but I have no way of necessarily replicating this. There was one time that I had actually one instance overwrite the other instance's changes, but I have never been able to reproduce that. And I have a feeling it was more of a timing issue or maybe even a version issue, but I can kind of get all that information together if you need. I'm not sure if anyone has ever seen that.
Are you active on Slack?
I am.
Slack channels.
And I can post stuff in there as well.
Yeah, if you can post some information there, I will get back to you later.
Okay, that sounds great.
I just see the comment from Rio. He's saying, I mean, from a Jenkins pipeline, I assume from some kind of pipeline, there is the same type of issue that sometimes, you know, you can have two concurrent pipelines which tries to update the same repo and one should fail. And we did the same at Intuit. We have requirement to deploy to two environments from the same pipeline. And usually these both environments in the same repo, just in different folders. And we have to use, you know, Jenkins like locking. Basically, there is a way to say, oh, you know, do that thing in parallel and then lock and kind of, I don't know what exactly Jenkins is using for locking, but basically we need to make sure commits are sequential, not parallel.
Okay.
It doesn't answer your question. Just
I see Rio typing furiously.
Okay. I see his comment there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, the comment is we've simply disabled merge commits in GitLab, so the commit has to be fast forwardable. That's our lock. Yeah, that makes sense.
We will definitely look into that.
Do you use GitLab, Keith?
Yeah, we are using a private instance.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, so essentially the folder directory or the directory structure is separated between the two instances, but is only separated by config maps. Again, because we want to essentially deploy the same Helm releases, but if we wanted different values, we would have the different config maps.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that is kind of how we're separating it at this point. But that is open to change if there's better ways to do that. But yeah, I appreciate the feedback there, and and the suggestions. We'll definitely take a look into those.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Daniel, I was looking at the Flux CD docs bugs, and I don't see anything that's specific to the advanced usage. So if you want, I can create a new one, new GitHub issue.
Yeah, I think one that is specific to that use case, or maybe a little bit generalized.
Cool. Yeah, I can do that.
Super. All right. Last call. That's all. We'll wrap up now.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.